The office was silent when the new girl entered. No one noticed at first, but gradually the employees began to look towards the door, where a young girl with light brown hair, dressed in a white blouse and a black pencil skirt, appeared before them. Her face wore a radiant smile and her eyes seemed to gaze in wonder at everything around her. The head of the office, Mr. Jacobson, rose from his chair as soon as he saw her enter. He liked to keep up with new hires and was always interested in meeting new team members. But, upon seeing the new girl, something in him changed. His heart beat faster and a strange feeling of excitement came over him. The girl introduced herself as Emily and began working diligently in her new position. From the beginning, it was evident that she was a dedicated and committed employee. She worked hard at her daily tasks, but also made time to get to know her coworkers. She was always smiling, listening, and asking questions about their lives and interests. Over time, Emily began to attract the attention of her coworkers, but especially Mr. Jacobson. Although she didn't know it, he was completely fascinated by her. He spent more time in his office and in the meetings she attended, and often found himself thinking about her throughout the day and night. One day, during a team meeting, Mr. Jacobson asked Emily her opinion on a particular topic. She responded confidently, offering a concise and thoughtful answer. Mr. Jacobson was impressed and amazed by Emily's ability to solve problems and make sound decisions. From that point forward, he began to pay even more attention to her. Over time, Mr. Jacobson began to flirt with Emily. He started paying compliments and inviting her to business lunches and meetings outside the office. Emily enjoyed his attention and felt flattered by his compliments. But she wasn't sure how to feel about it. He was her boss, after all, and she didn't want to mix business with pleasure. The more time she spent with him, however, the harder she found it to resist his charms. Mr. Jacobson was a charming, intelligent, successful man, and he cared about her in a way that no other man had ever done before. Emily began to be attracted to him and began to respond to his flirtations with flirtations of her own. One night, after a business meeting, Mr. Jacobson drove her home. In the car, they kissed passionately. Emily felt her heart pounding and knew she was in love with him. But she also realized that their relationship was destined to be complicated. Mr. Jacobson was her boss, and that made their romance taboo. Emily and Mr. Jacobson began dating secretly, keeping their romance private while continuing to work together in the office. It was exciting, but also extremely stressful. Emily felt more and more in love with him, but couldn't help but feel guilty about being involved with her boss. Mr. Jacobson, on the other hand, was completely smitten with Emily and couldn't resist being around her. I often found excuses to work together on projects, and they spent hours talking and discussing ideas. But he also worried about the consequences of their relationship, as he knew that if it was discovered, they could lose their jobs and their reputations could suffer. The tension mounted as their romance intensified. Emily worried about how it would affect her relationship with her coworkers if they found out she was involved with her boss. She also wondered if Mr. Jacobson was really interested in her or saw her simply as a temporary hobby. On the other hand, Mr. Jacobson couldn't stop thinking about Emily. Every time he was away from her, he felt that something was missing. He knew he had to be careful, but he couldn't resist being near her. He wanted to protect her, care for her, and make her happy, but he also knew he had to be careful. One afternoon, while they were working together on a project, Mr. Jacobson confessed his deepest feelings to Emily. He told her that he loved her and could not imagine his life without her. Emily was overwhelmed by his words and couldn't help but cry. She knew she loved him too, but she couldn't help but feel afraid of the consequences of their romance. Days passed, and their relationship intensified. Emily and Mr. Jacobson often met secretly, trying to find time to be together while they viewed their relationship in secret. Despite their fears, they were happy together, but the tension continued to grow. Finally, the time came when they had to make a decision. Emily found herself at a crossroads, struggling with her love for Mr. Jacobson and her duty as an employee of the company. She knew that their romance was a conflict of interest and that their relationship could be viewed as unethical. After many days of reflection, Emily finally made the difficult decision to talk to Mr. Jacobson. She told him that she had to end their relationship for the sake of her career and the company's reputation. Mr. Jacobson was devastated, but he also knew that Emily was right. It was a painful decision, but it was the best thing for both of them. Emily and Mr. Jacobson knew they could maintain a professional relationship and continue to work together in the office, but their romance had to remain in the past. Despite everything, they continued to feel a deep attraction to each other, but they had learned to keep their distance and keep their relationship a secret. Emily realized that her love for Mr. Jacobson was not a love affair. After making the difficult decision to end her affair with Mr. Jacobson, Emily worked hard at her job and put her feelings for him behind her. But despite her best efforts, she couldn't help but think about him constantly. The tension in the office was palpable. Although Emily and Mr. Jacobson tried to act normal, they both knew they had shared something special and that their relationship was no longer the same. Coworkers began to notice the tension between them and started asking questions. Emily felt caught in a storm of emotions. She knew she had made the right decision in ending her affair with Mr. Jacobson, but she couldn't help but be attracted to him. Every time she saw him, her heart beat faster and her mind filled with confused thoughts. The situation worsened when Mr. Jacobson began sending her personal text messages and emails, trying to rekindle their romance. Emily was tempted to respond, but she knew she couldn't allow herself to fall back into his arms. The temptation was overwhelming. Emily couldn't help but think of all the wonderful things they had shared together and how complete she felt when she was near him. But she also knew that their relationship was a conflict of interest and that she had to be careful. Finally, Emily set out to talk to Mr. Jacobson face to face. She explained that she could no longer receive personal messages from him and that she needed to maintain a professional relationship at work. Mr. Jacobson seemed disappointed, but he also understood that he had to respect her wishes. But despite her efforts to keep their relationship a secret and maintain a professional relationship, tension continued to grow between Emily and Mr. Jacobson. They were both attracted to each other, but they knew they could not allow themselves to fall into the temptation of love again. Weeks passed, and Emily began to feel more comfortable in her role at the company. She focused on her work and tried to put her feelings for Mr. Jacobson behind her. But despite her best efforts, she couldn't help but think about him constantly. One day, while working together on a project, the tension became too much for Emily. She could resist no longer and confessed to Mr. Jacobson that she still loved him. He looked at her sadly and told her that he loved her too, but that he could not allow himself to fall back into the temptation of love. It was a painful moment, but Emily knew she had to be strong. She realized that she had to let go of her feelings for Mr. Jacobson and move on. But she couldn't help but wonder what might have been if they had made a different choice. Love was a dangerous temptation, and Emily had learned that she couldn't always follow her heart. She had learned to be careful and to think about the consequences of her actions. After her confession of love, the relationship between Emily and Mr. Jacobson changed mightily. They could no longer work together on projects and avoided each other in the office. Although Emily was saddened by the loss of their relationship, she knew she had made the right decision in ending their romance. Despite the stress, Emily continued to work hard at her job. She pushed herself to learn more and improve her skills, and quickly became one of the company's most valuable employees. She was promoted to a more senior position and began working on important projects with other team members. Emily was excited about her new position and was determined to do her best. She worked long hours and worked hard to meet all deadlines. But despite her professional success, she still felt a little lonely. She missed the intimacy she had shared with Mr. Jacobson, but she knew she had to move on. One day, while in a meeting with an important client, Emily met a man named Tom. He was charming and funny, and Emily was immediately attracted to him. They talked for hours and Emily was surprised at how easy he was to talk to. Tom asked Emily out on a date, and she accepted. Despite her mixed feelings, she was excited about the opportunity to meet someone new. The date went great, and Emily felt at ease with Tom from the first moment. They talked about everything from his job to his hobbies to his dreams for the future. As they got to know each other better, Emily realized that Tom was very different from Mr. Jacobson. He was caring, supportive, and had no conflict of interest with their relationship. Emily felt relieved of the tension and stress she had experienced in her previous romance. Emily and Tom began dating periodically, and Emily began to feel happier than she had in a long time. Although she still waited on Mr. Jacobson from time to time, she realized that she had found a new opportunity for love. Meanwhile, the situation at the office began to improve as well. Although Emily and Mr. Jacobson still worked together, they had learned to maintain a professional relationship and leave their personal feelings behind. The tension needed and the team began to work better together. Emily realized that she had learned a lot from her experience with Mr. Jacobson. She had learned to be more careful in her personal relationships and to think about the consequences of her actions. But she had also learned to be strong and to move on when things didn't go as planned. As she moved forward in her career and in her relationship with Tom, Emily felt more confident and happier than ever before. She knew she had found new opportunities in love and in her work, and she was excited for what the future held. Over time, Emily and Tom's relationship grew stronger. They had overcome several challenges together and had built a relationship based on honesty, trust, and respect. Emily felt grateful to have found someone like Tom, someone who loved her for who she was and not for her position in the company. As their relationship blossomed, Emily began to think about her career in a different way. While she had always been ambitious and hardworking, she now realized that she didn't want to spend her whole life working at one company. She wanted to explore new opportunities and follow her true passions. Tom supported her in her dreams, and together they began to think about their future. Emily thought she wanted to travel more and experience new cultures. She also wanted to start her own business and own her time and her future. With Tom's help, Emily began to take steps toward her goals. Tom introduced her to people who could help her in her business, and together they made plans to travel around the world. Emily felt excited about the possibilities that were opening up to her and grateful to have someone like Tom by her side. Meanwhile, back at the office, Emily continued to work hard in her new position. She became a leader on her team and began training new employees. As her career took off, Emily realized that she had learned a lot from her past experiences. She fondly remembered her time with Mr. Jacobson and what she had learned from him about hard work and dedication. But she also realized that she had learned from her mistakes and how they needed to be careful in their personal relationships. The relationship between Emily and Mr. Jacobson had become more cordial over time. They had found a new way to work together and had overcome their past. Emily felt grateful for the opportunity to have learned from him and to have found someone like Tom who loved her unconditionally. As Emily looked to the future, she felt excited about the new possibilities that lay before her. She knew she had found a new love and was on the right path to the realization of her dreams. Grateful for the lessons she had learned in the past, Emily was ready to face any challenge that came her way and embrace all the opportunities life had to offer. A year into their relationship, Emily and Tom had become an inseparable couple. They shared a deep and sincere love, and every day they strived to make each other happy. One day, as they strolled through the park, Tom took Emily's hand and knelt down in front of her. Emily looked up in surprise as Tom pulled a small pencil case from his pocket. "Emily, I can't imagine life without you," Tom said with a smile on his face. "You're my best friend, my life partner, and the love of my life. Will you marry me?" Emily was speechless. She had dreamed of this moment, but she had never imagined that Tom would ask her to marry him in a park. However, she knew the answer was yes. "Yes, Tom, I do want to marry you," said Emily as she knelt down and hugged him. Tom pulled a diamond ring out of the box and placed it on Emily's finger. The jewel sparkled in the sun and reflected Emily's eyes. "I love you, Emily," Tom said as he stood up and hugged her. "I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." Emily was excited about her future with Tom. She knew they had been through many challenges together, but now they were ready to face the challenges of life as a team. As they walked through the park, Emily and Tom began making plans for their wedding. They decided they wanted something small and intimate, just for family and close friends. Emily knew she wanted their wedding to be somewhere beautiful and meaningful. "How about we get married on the beach where we had our first date?" suggested Tom. Emily smiled. "That sounds perfect, Tom. It will be a day we'll never forget." After a year full of challenges and adventures, Emily and Tom prepared for a future together filled with love and possibilities. They knew they had a lot of work to do, but together, they could face anything life threw their way. Finally, Emily and Tom's big day arrived. They were married on the beach where they had their first date, with a beautiful view of the ocean and a cool breeze blowing through the air. The ceremony was intimate, with only their closest family and friends. Emily looked beautiful in her white wedding dress, with her hair pulled back in an elegant bun and a bouquet of wildflowers in her hands. Tom looked at her with eyes full of love and admiration, dressed in an elegant suit and a radiant smile on his face. After the ceremony, the couple and their guests enjoyed a delicious dinner at a local restaurant, followed by a beach party with music, dancing, and laughter. Emily and Tom enjoyed every moment of their special day and the company of their loved ones. After the wedding, Emily and Tom returned to their life together in the city. They continued to grow and support each other's careers and relationship. As the years passed, they built a wonderful life together, full of adventure, love, and happiness. As they grew older together, Emily and Tom looked at each other with the same love and admiration they had felt on their wedding day. They had built a life together, overcoming challenges and celebrating triumphs. Finally, the day came when Emily and Tom looked into each other's eyes and knew they had had a full and satisfying life together. They knew that their love had stood the test of time and that they had been the best choice for each other. Emily and Tom held hands and walked toward the horizon, where the sun was setting. They stopped at the seashore, looking out over the endless ocean. They embraced and kissed as the sun disappeared into the horizon. Emily knew there was no other place in the world she would rather be than with Tom, her husband, her best friend and life partner. Together, they had accomplished so much and were ready to face whatever the future held, together as always.